Wine presses. Hey there, this is Matt DiDonato with Prospero Equipment Corporation. We are a New York-based winery equipment supplier. In this talk, I will be discussing wine presses for small, medium, and large wineries. So let's dive into it. The wine press is the other major piece of equipment besides the destemmer crusher that is the main requirement for the crush pad. The smallest scale wine presses on the commercial end are the upright hydro press shown here. As you can see, there is a wood basket and a stainless steel version. The wood units are the most economical units. The wood version, called the 70B, holds 1,000 pounds of wine grapes in the basket at a time. The stainless steel version is more costly but will last much longer. There are three types in the stainless steel version: a 160-liter version which holds approximately 800 pounds, a 300-liter version which holds approximately 1,200 pounds, and a 450-liter option which holds approximately 2,000 pounds of fermented reds at a time. These units have a food-grade rubber bladder inside. They operate by hooking up a standard garden hose to the bottom inlet port, and the bladder inflates with water, putting pressure inside the basket. As the bladder inflates, wine is pressed off the grape skins through the stabs on the wood version or holes on the stainless steel version. The wine then falls into the trough shown here and drains into a drain at the bottom into a bucket or bin and is pumped into tanks or barrels. Advantages of these units are they are the most economical units out there, so this is recommended to anyone on a tighter budget. Gentle on the fruit for high quality wine processing. Easy to use as they hook up to a standard garden hose so no power is required. The cons are they are harder to clean and empty, more labor intensive to load and unload. The wood version unit will wear over time, and at some point the wood basket will need to be replaced. The stainless steel versions are better suited for the longer term. The extraction rates for crushed whites or whole cluster wine grapes are lower on these as well. The units are really only meant for fermented red grapes. It is not recommended to process whole cluster whites or crushed whites as the juice extraction is very low, especially for whole cluster. Since a crushed white or whole cluster grape is not fermented, the juice tends to stay inside the grape and is harder to extract. It is only with the more advanced pneumatic membrane systems where you can get the better extraction rates for white grapes. Hydraulic press. Another press is the hydraulic press shown here. As you can see, this is a top-driven press with a hydraulic piston that presses the wine grapes from the top. These are great presses for a winery that is only doing fermented reds. Whole clusters or crushed white grapes do not work very well on these either because they tend to clump up in the basket like the hydro press does. Units come in a range of different sizes from 1 tons up to 5 tons and beyond. Pneumatic membrane presses. The pneumatic membrane press is the recommended commercial wine press for a startup winery if the budget permits. Size ranges from a PSP5, which is a 500-liter press, up to a large-scale PSP55 model, which is a 5,500-liter wine press, and beyond. PSP5 wine presses hold approximately 1 ton of fermented wine grapes in the drum at a time to give you an idea how much the smallest model holds. These presses are great for all different types of processing, such as crushed whites, fermented reds, whole cluster pressing, and even ice wines. So how do these units operate? All these units have a built-in air compressor. You have a stainless steel drum as you see in the picture. Inside the drum is a membrane on half the drum and a stainless steel perforated holes on the other half. You will fill the wine press using a must pump or dump and hopper option and load the press with wine grapes. Once the press is fully loaded, you will shut the hatch doors and select the program on the control panel. Depending on what wine grapes you are pressing, cycles typically take approximately 90 to 120 minutes. Once the program starts, the built-in air compressor will gradually build up pressure and put pressure inside the drum, pressing the wine off the grape skins. The bladder will put pressure on the wine grapes at a slow rate, approximately 0.2 bar pressure to start, and then hold the pressure and then release. Once the pressure is released, the drum will rotate and tumble the grapes so they don't clump up. This is the main reason why these presses are great for whole clusters or crushed whites. The tumbling breaks up the clumping so the extraction rate can be achieved from the grapes. After the grapes are tumbled, the press will again put more pressure on the grapes at 0.4 bar pressure and continue the process up to 1.5 bars. If a lower pressure is desired, the program can be stopped at any time or a customized program can be made in the panel. Axial feed valve. This option allows wine grapes to be fed in through a 3-inch port instead of through the side hatch door with a must pump. This valve also has a built-in alarm, so you can turn on your must pump while the press drum is filling and walk away. When the alarm sounds off, you know the drum is full. After the wine is pressed, the wine falls down in the juice pan shown here and is pumped into the tanks or barrels. Because the wine press is usually the bottleneck on the crush pad, it is normally recommended to get a higher capacity unit at the beginning so you don't have to worry about trading or upgrading. Each press cycle can take 1 to 2 hours, so the larger the wine press, the less time it takes to process. The minimum capacity the drum can hold is approximately 10 to 15% of the max load, so these wine presses can do very small lots, so you don't have to worry about filling the drum up all the way. PST and PSH models. There are 2 other versions of the same pneumatic wine press we just went over. These are much less common units in the Midwest and East Coast winemaking, but did want to mention them. There is our standard PSP models, which are the open drums we just reviewed. Then there is our PST model press, which are channel version wine presses. These channels give the winemaker the ability to reduce oxygen exposure while pressing. It looks identical to the open drum presses we looked at prior. But instead of an open drum, the wine press will come with channels inside the press as shown here. The juice is collected in these channels and fed into a smaller, deeper sump underneath the press to reduce oxygen exposure. That is the main advantage of this press. The one issue with these units is that they are harder to clean and more time-consuming to work with. So many of these East Coast and Midwest wineries will use the standard PSP open drum models, as it kind of covers all the bases for winemaking for fermented reds, crust whites, whole cluster, and ice wines. Approximately 80 to 85% of the wine presses we sell to the market are the PSP open drum models because of the versatility. The other style press I want to mention is our PSH models, which are like the PST channel versions but under inert gas inside the drum, inside the collection tank so no oxygen can touch the wine. Here is a picture of this process. As you can see here, the drum and collection tank are all under gas, so while you are pressing, there is no oxygen exposure. The results of this pressing results in a high quality, fruitier white wine, so it does have its place in the industry for high-end whites. Sizing. In this chart are how many pounds each press can hold. So for example, PSP5 can hold 550 to 880 pounds of integral grapes, which are whole cluster grapes in the drum at a time. Fresh lees are crushed whites, so 1,545 to 2,220 pounds at a time. And fermented lees, or fermented reds, which are 2,200 pounds to 3,350 pounds at a time. These are the estimated maximum ranges. The wine presses can take smaller lots, as discussed prior, so you can fill the press with approximately 10 to 15% of the max volume and still press the grapes. I would recommend stopping the video here and seeing what size press may be appropriate for your winery. Wine press recap. Hydropress and hydraulic presses, smallest commercial units, low extraction rates for whole cluster and crushed white grapes, great for fermented reds, low cost. Pneumatic membrane presses, commercial units, great for all types of winemaking processing, automatic cycles and adjustable programs. The winemaker can customize his own to his needs as well. PSP are the open drum models, which are the most common used presses. PST are the closed drum wine presses to reduce oxygen exposure during pressing. PSH models are under inert gas pressure for a fruitier high-end white wine with almost